Thank you very much, Keith. Members of the press, it's an honor and a pleasure to be back in the WTO today and to be speaking with you. I know that for many of you dialing in, this virtual meeting format is a challenge. But I'm grateful to those who have worked, Keith, to make it possible. I've spent the last 2 hours listening to the WTO membership, answering their questions and outlining my vision and experience that I believe I can bring to the role of DG WTO. This vital system is being tested as never before. The WTO was already in difficulties before COVID-19 struck. Its negotiating function had faltered, with only limited successes in the last 25 years, despite the launch of the Doha round of negotiations at the beginning of the century. Trade tensions have increased, and the dispute settlement system has been compromised. There is widespread acknowledgement among WTO members that the WTO is in urgent need of reform. There are 3 key areas where the WTO membership needs to focus: reform, recovery, and renewal. We need to recapture the visionary inspiration of the original architects of the system. Governments must breathe new life into the WTO so it can play a key role in helping recovery from the pandemic and in rebuilding economic resilience. Reviving trade is essential to recovery worldwide, to boosting growth and sustainable development, and to easing the social and economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Once recovery is underway, however, we still face the need to update the trading system to take account of crucial global issues like climate change, the digital revolution, poverty, and sustainable development. The WTO should be where governments come together to cooperate on formulating the best trade policy responses among themselves, share best practices, and reaffirm key principles. The WTO membership does not all share the same reform priorities. This makes it essential for them to work together to build convergence around elements that they can all support. I believe we can break the cycle of despair and enter into a new phase of hope and realism. I know that I have what it takes to be Director General of the WTO, to help the WTO make progress on crucial issues. And I know this because during my time here in Geneva as ambassador and later as minister, I have severally been appointed by the membership to chair WTO bodies. And that includes the ministerial conference. So I'm acutely aware that this is an organization driven by its members. I'm committed wholeheartedly to working collaboratively and inclusively to make this organization work better for not only its members, but for the whole world. As Director General, I would use my extensive experience to support the membership, work with them for reform and renewal of the WTO. I'm a strong advocate for the value of the multilateral trading system and the need to make it more effective. With my candidacy, I intend to offer a fresh perspective, one that is broad and inclusive, ensuring all members are involved in and contribute to decision making. And now thank you very much for your attention, and I welcome your engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first question is for Christian Ulrich of DPA. Christian, you have the floor, please.
Hello, Minister Mohammed. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. This is not your first run. You have tried once before and you were not chosen. What are the lessons that you have learned from that campaign? And why should countries that did not support you at that time, why should they vote for you now? Thank you.
Well, let me begin by saying it's just a different time. I enjoyed participating in the selection process last time. I was very supportive of the candidate that was chosen eventually, and I think we should all thank him for the amazing work that he has done during the time that he has held that post. I think that since 2013, when I first ran, to date, the things that I have participated in that make me a candidate that is worth considering. One of them is basically chairing the Nairobi ministerial. And, you're a journalist, so if you remember, it had been declared a failure before it even started. And we were able to turn that around using my diplomatic skills, my experience here in this house. I told the members that I know the corridors here. I have walked them. I have negotiated in different corners of this corridor to get results for the multilateral trading system. And so we were able to have a very successful ministerial conference. We were able to agree on an agreement that had eluded members for a very long time, the Export Subsidies Prohibition Agreement. And we were also able to agree on an ITA too, that also journalists had said would never happen during the Nairobi ministerial. And so I'd just like to say that the experiences that I've had since then, the skills that I've developed, my vision as a politician, all this give me hope that in fact this is the right time for me to head this organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is for Bryce Bashrock and then to Laurent, please. Bryce, you have the floor.
Bryce Bashrock with Bloomberg BNA. Bloomberg, thank you for your comments. You mentioned the export subsidies deal in Nairobi. You were part of a small group of negotiators who hashed that deal out in the middle of the night, and then you presented it to the delegations the next day as a fait accompli. I'm wondering, why do you believe this is the right approach to trade negotiations, particularly at a time when a deficit of trust is such a big issue here?
Oh, but that's actually not the reality. The truth is that during the negotiations, we were discussing and consulting in different formations. And every time an issue was discussed, we went back to the membership and we negotiated with different groups of memberships because the WTO is a member-driven organization. You also negotiate, you don't negotiate top-down. Yeah, you need to make sure that everybody participates in a negotiation, and at the end of the day, you must have consensus in order for an agreement, right, to be reached and adopted. If there was a feeling that anybody was left out, they could have stopped the negotiations from happening. They could have stopped the agreement from being reached. But I think that Nairobi was a fantastic example of how ministerial negotiating conference should actually work because it was bottom up. We had different sessions with different members of different groups, meeting them, talking to them about their issues, learning what they really wanted to see in this agreement. And in the end, I think that all of us were very excited about the result of that negotiation. So it's not true that it was negotiated in a closed room. I think that everybody participated and everybody was included.
The next question is for Laurent. Laurent, vous avez la parole.
Laurent Sierot, Swiss news agency minister. The US and your government are discussing a free trade agreement which is highly scrutinized by quite a lot of members. Do you consider it as a potential advantage or a potential obstacle in that race for WTO?
Well, I think it's one of very many FTAs. Ours is just beginning. Others have been negotiated, concluded by members of the WTO, and I don't think that it has, in any adverse way, affected either their membership or the issues they're addressing or their participation in conversations here or negotiations here. I think it's a step that needed to be taken by my country. It's a negotiation that is just going to begin. I think it provides a model for how FTAs should be negotiated across the continent, if required. It's also going to be open for others in my region, in my sub-region, to come on board if they so wish. So it's not. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think an FTA between Kenya and the US should be something that is celebrated and welcomed, because, as I said, it will be a framework for any other FTAs that could happen on the continent.
Thank you very much. I have a WhatsApp question here from a journalist in Nairobi, from Sharon Atinieno from Science Africa. And Sharon's question is, were you to assume this position, what would you do differently?
Sharon, I would do a lot differently. My experiences are different. I think that my skills are different. They've been honed over many years of diplomatic life. My vision as a politician, which is a very forward-looking vision, a very supportive vision for the multilateral trading system and for the WTO. I would hit the ground running. I think that's what I'll do differently, because I think it's time for that. The organization is at a crossroads. The multilateral system is facing challenges, and it needs an experienced, negotiator to come in and support the work that needs to be done here. But somebody who actually understands how the system works, that it's a member-driven, that you have to support the members to reach agreement. That yes, as a secretariat, you would definitely give options to members, having listened to them and understood what direction they wanted to take. I would also hopefully focus a little bit on the gender perspective and make sure that the issues, on the empowerment of women in trade, the need to have more women, I think, at the top of the organization. Issues such as that, which are very close to my heart, which I've worked on for many, many years. Those are issues that would drive me. But for me, the need to actually reform the organization. Right? Because I have seen it work really well. I've been here during very exciting times. And I think he was also here when we were negotiating all the time, day, night, evening, morning, and getting concrete results for the multilateral trading system. So that's what I would really want to see, to feel, to participate in. It's a wonderful experience to have.
Thank you very much. Let's take some WebEx questions now, and Minister, you can hear the questions with your earpiece there. Let's go first to Ling Xin from Xinhua News Agency of China. Xin, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon. Madam Minister, Xin from Xinhua News Agency. My question is, we know that WTO is a member-driven organization, but this nature of organization may become the excuse of inaction of the Director General. So if selected as DG, will you be ambitious enough to be more engaged in helping resolve maybe bilateral trade tension among major members, to play a more active role to help de-escalate those trade tensions? If yes, with limited mandate that the DG can have, what tactics or strategies will you plan to use? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's true that the DG may not have many powers, but he has convening power. He has engagement powers. He has, I think, the ability to knock doors, be invited in, and have substantive discussions with members. It's also true that the DG encourages members in a certain direction. Directions of ensuring that the negotiating function of this organization is resumed, but also offering his good offices, right, for when there are issues that need to be resolved among members, encouraging them to resolve these issues within the systems that exist in the WTO and not going outside them. So the powers may be limited, but I think that the influence is amazing, and I think it can be used very positively to move the work of the organization forward, to encourage government to resolve any challenges, any issues that they may have within the system itself, and to see whether, in fact, the reasons for non-engagement is because the rules may be outdated and not in sync with developments in the global economy. So the DG has, I think, the power to bring issues to the attention of members as well, and to request them to engage on those issues. So it's the powers are few, but the influence is great, and if it's used positively, we'll get good results.
Thank you very much. Let's go to another question from WebEx, this time from Washington, D.C., and Doug Palmer of Politico. Doug, you have the floor, please.
Hi, this is Doug Palmer for Politico. Thanks for calling on me, Keith, and thank you, Minister, for doing this press conference. Well, I guess I thought I would ask the question, what is your view on whether it's time for an African or a woman to lead the WTO? And then secondly, the developing country status issue is a real concern for the Trump administration, and I would say the U.S. generally. How would you navigate around that issue to address some of the issues that the United States is raising?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Doug. First of all, I think we're looking for a Director General who is competent, who understands the issues, who knows the system, and who can be supportive of members' ambitions to negotiate, to participate in the multilateral trading environment. And so I don't know whether it's about much of being female or not, but if a female has that expertise, that experience, the skills that are required, and the leadership qualities that are needed, so much the better. I think then it would be very, very positive to have a woman. I don't think you should have a woman because you feel that a woman should hold this post at this specific time. I think it's important that the woman that is chosen is capable of supporting this system, of leading the secretariat, and doing the work that needs to be done. On the issue of the development and the categorization of countries, I think that's a matter for members to negotiate and agree on. I think the only category of membership that has been defined is the LDCs, and it's defined using UN definitions. So for the rest, I think it's up to the members to work on it, to negotiate, to decide whether that's an issue that is ripe for negotiations and discussions. It's not something that the Director General, can discuss or can. You can't negotiate a country out of a category as Director General. So I think that it's not part of your job description.
Thank you very much. Now let's take a question from the floor, and it's how can you have the floor, please?
Good evening, Madam. I'm Angela from Chinese news agency Sina.com. As we can see, you have been a key figure in WTO, and you are such a powerful and influential woman. As we could say, if you have a good solution of reforming the WTO, why you didn't do it before, but you think you can do it now and in a different way? So how that change happened, and also what exactly one person's influence, how important one person's influence is, could weight on the reform of the WTO? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think that's an excellent question. The members themselves, the members of this organization, have been talking about the reform of the organization. So it's not something that the WTO Director General is bringing to the table. It's something that the members themselves feel is necessary and that should be undertaken at this time. Now, what they don't agree is on which reforms should take place. But that the organization should be reformed, I think that's agreed. I think something that everybody talks about, WTO, and I think that's also something that is well known, is at a crossroads. It either reforms, right, or I think it completely fails. Yeah, and so the membership needs to agree, to come together and agree on what reforms should take place, what priority they want to attach to the reforms, the sequence of the reforms, how they want to renew this organization so that it can serve them better. That's the decision for the members to take. But I think, I also come from a member state. and the discussions around and the conversations around reform have been going on for a while now at the WTO. When I was here, and that's why I talked about negotiating in different corners of these corridors. The WTO was a beehive of activity. It was a beehive of activity. We managed to amend the TRIPS agreement. Very difficult, but it was possible. Right? Because everybody, right, had that feel-good, and they wanted to achieve something. Everybody was interested in making sure that there were outcomes, concrete outcomes. That's not the case right now. It's different. From 2015, when we had the Nairobi Ministerial and had outcomes, concrete outcomes, ITA, export subsidies prohibition, not much has happened. Not much negotiation has happened in the WTO, and that's why members are talking about the need for reform. But now they actually need to sit down and agree on what reforms should take place.
Thank you very much. The next question is for Sebastian from Swiss TV. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Sebastian, Swiss Television. What would be your approach to address the growing trade tensions between the US and China?
Be my approach would be, if I had the opportunity to lead this organization, would be to encourage all members to resolve any disputes, any issues that they may have, any tensions within the WTO rules. And that would be the position that I would take, that I would encourage them to do it within the rules. If the disputes are, and the tension is about trade, we have a multilateral trading system that should be used to resolve, those tensions. So I would just refer them to the WTO rules.
Thank you very much. Let's take another WebEx question, please. This is a question for Ayana Dreyer from Bordelex in Belgium. Ayana, you have the floor, please.
Hello, thank you, Keith. Hello, Madam Mohammed, Ambassador and Minister. I have a question. How concretely would you address the issue of the Appellate body? What concrete steps would you take if you were there? And what role do you see for African countries in this reform of the Appellate body, in this whole discussion about it? Thank you.
So I chaired the dispute settlement body here at the WTO, and the Appellate body was the crown jewel. I think that the membership, and I would encourage them to do that, should negotiate and get it back in place. I think it's really important that we have an appellate body. There are reasons why it doesn't exist anymore. Those reasons must be addressed. The concerns that governments have expressed on the workings of the appellate body should be addressed by the membership, so that eventually we can actually have negotiations on reinstating reformed appellate body. What role would the African countries play? I think they would play the same role as every other member of the organization. The only thing that we would obviously require, and that the WTO can offer, is additional capacity building and technical assistance, so that there's greater participation by these countries in the negotiations for a reformed appellate body.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to Washington and take a question from Hannah Monacan of Inside U.S. Trade. Hannah, you have the floor, please.
Thanks, Keith. Good afternoon, Minister. You talked a lot about reform, and I think everyone agrees that reform is needed. And just to follow up on some of what you've said, how do you think that you can move reform forward? And in particular, do you envision that there should be sort of a large reform agenda or negotiating round, or would you favor more of an incremental approach? And how would the upcoming ministerial conference factor into your thoughts on reform?
Well, thank you very much. I think my role as Director General, if selected, would be to just encourage members to engage on, the reforms that they have been, discussing, to decide on which reforms should be negotiated and carried out, and sequence these reforms if they so wish. I think it's a role for the membership of the WTO, to play. As DG, I would offer good offices, of course. I would have discussions with different members to understand, what the issues were and what they would like to see happen. I would see whether we can actually create convergence, among different countries and groups of countries. I would hope that by the time we get to Kazakhstan for the ministerial, that there would be some clarity as to what kind of reforms are needed and required. Listening to members, over the long term, I think the reforms that they've talked about include, but this is not an exhaustive list, but includes the dispute settlement system and the need to address some of the shortcomings, some of the concerns that governments have. They have talked about notification and the need to make that a little bit tighter maybe for some countries. They've talked about the negotiating function of the WTO to make sure that we actually get results and outcomes for negotiations that I think need to take place. That's why this place exists, to be able to negotiate rules. They've talked about upgrading the rule book, so there's so many issues that have been discussed and that need to be addressed. But that's something that the membership needs to do. As Director General, you encourage, you nudge, you provide, the space to do that. You also create an environment that allows members to be able to sit down and negotiate.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. This is a WhatsApp question from Philip Blenkinsop of Reuters in Brussels. And his question to you, Minister, is, do you think it is Africa's turn to lead the WTO? If so, why could Africa not unite around one candidate, and will the fact that it has not hinder the chances of the three names put forward?
Well, I think it's the prerogative of the membership to decide, who will be selected. I think Africa takes the WTO very seriously. And that's the reason why the caliber of the candidates that have come forward is so distinct and so high. And I don't think that Africa should be penalized for putting forward, a number of candidates. There are 54 countries on the continent, after all. And we have different, parts of the conference, the continent. So basically, I think that one should not be penalized for putting candidates up to take up, a position that Africans attach a lot of importance to, and that they feel that they need to take very seriously. So I think that it's not a matter of weakness to have three candidates. I think it's actually a matter of strength. It shows how interested we are, how seriously we take the WTO. And, putting up these candidates, I mean, the three of us are all very accomplished in our own right. Yeah, it wasn't a decision to put just any candidates forward. I think they put down, heavyweights in Africa. That's a good thing. Africa should be commended for doing that. And, I do hope that of the three African candidates that I've talked about, that the membership will actually give serious consideration to having a leader from Africa. I think Africa has a big contribution to make. It is a continent that has a lot of potential. It is a continent that is young and inspirational. And so I'm hoping that the membership will give that a serious consideration. Thank you.